Welcome everybody virtually to Cardiff University. I'm Peter Madden. I'm a Professor of Practice in City Futures in the university. And we're all here today because we want to find solutions to the climate crisis. We know that cities will be vital in this because they're the major source of global emissions. They also face many of the impacts. They'll be at the forefront of the impacts, and also they'll be the site of many of the innovations and solutions. So this morning, that's what we're here to share and understand. What are the solutions? What more can cities do to help solve this crisis? The shape of today, let me just see if I can share the agenda. The session before lunch is really about what best practice and looking about what's worked in cities and what they've done and what's been successful. We'll have a reflection from city leader, from activist body, C40, from academia, Linda, and from a company working across the world, Arup, Ben Smith. And then the second session after lunch, let's see if I can move that up. We will be looking more about what needs to be done in the future and looking forward to what cities should be planning. And that second session will be chaired by Professor Gill Bristow, and her title there is wrong because yesterday she became the D, so she became the head of our school. So I'd like to congratulate her on behalf of us all. We're really pleased to have her in that role, and she's the new head of geography and planning at Cardiff University. And the way we'll run it is try and get through all the speakers and then have the panel discussion and questions at the end. But do please discuss or raise questions in the chat, and we will look at those as we go along. If you'd like to tweet, we'd encourage you to tweet and discuss on social media what you're hearing and what you're seeing. So that's just this is at CU Geog Plan is the department's Twitter feed. So please use that if you're tweeting. Stop sharing. Yeah. So we have an amazing roster of speakers. As you've seen, we will run through the speakers and have the question and discussion at the end. And first up, we're really pleased to welcome virtually from Malmo, Simon Chrisander. And Simon is the Deputy Mayor responsible for the environment for one of my favourite cities that I've had the pleasure to spend time in Malmo in Sweden. And I know you're really busy coping with the COVID crisis over there, along with everything else. So thanks very much for making the time, and I'll hand over to you, Simon.
Thank you so much, Peter. I'm going to see if I can get the thing started here. Let's do it from the beginning. There we go. I hope you see a nice little picture of Malmo there. If you can nod. Yeah. All right, great. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Simon. I'm the Deputy Mayor of Malmo, and my focus area are city planning and the environment. Just so I know that you know, Malmo is right there by that purple star. We are 345,000 inhabitants, third largest in Sweden, and we're close to Copenhagen. That defines us in a little way versus Stockholm sometimes. My agenda today is the following. I've been thinking about just talking about some of the things that Malmo has done, where we are at the moment, and how we're looking to the future. So I'll look a little bit at the environmental targets that we have, the greenhouse gas emissions, and it will be clear to you, hopefully, that transportation and energy are two of our biggest obstacles when it comes to reducing emissions. We'll also look at what works, in our opinion, and one of the main answers to that is to join forces and cooperate. And then at the end, I'll try to look to the future a little bit. So let's get started. Shoot for the moon. Yeah, Malmo has had ambitious goals for the environment for quite some time. We had environmental programs from 2009 to 2020. And I should say here that I've been a full-time employee or deputy mayor for 2 years. And prior to that, I was in the opposition. But I will try to give some credit to my predecessors anyway. I'll do that, but also talk about maybe some of the things that we can improve. The environmental program, the next one is coming up for a vote in about a month. And I should also say that Malmo was the first city in the world to adopt the UN Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030, and we did that in 2016, I believe. Our annual budget is structured around Agenda 2030, so I think we don't find anything extreme on that agenda. I just think it's a good way to structure our goals and make it clear to the public. So here are some of the targets that we have for the climate, and this is made by some PowerPoint whiz and a civil servant. So I don't know, it's kind of some kind of insect, but I hope you get it. It's if you start at the top, territorial-based emissions reduced by 70%. So they've been, counting on what is achievable. Needs to be a stretch goal, but still in some way achievable. If we go to the right, then sustainable mobility, been working quite a bit on that and will be doing that. Resource efficiency and sustainable consumption. And if you look at those, I don't know, surfboards or wings or whatever those are, it's that City of Malmo is net zero emissions, and that's for the organization City of Malmo. And then we have the energy supply, 100% renewable or recycled energy, and that's quite a heavy task, but we're happy to take that one on. If we look at greenhouse gases right now, or emissions, the takeaway is really that transportation and energy are some of the biggest targets for us. So this bluish turquoise one is transportation, and the orange one is energy. So those are really two main targets for us. If we move in and look at transportation, we have 100% renewable fuels in city buses in 2020. And if we look at some of our car fleets and vehicles, we're far above 90%. The only area that we're struggling a little bit is the heavy machinery, where we have some issues of it's a big investment, obviously, but it's also, what's available on the market. But hopefully Volvo or Scania can help us out in that section. This is one of our buses that we recently started using. It's called the Malmo Express, so it's a little bigger, more capacity. And the reason I bring this up is also to say that we get national funding for developing housing along this public transportation lines. So we have quite a few of this going through the city, and then we get funding for the actual infrastructure. So there's incentive for us to really plan the city in a sustainable way and allowing the citizens to, make sustainable choices. 90% increase in bike lanes since 2003. We were talking here before about Copenhagen being a biking city, and of course they are wonderful at that. We are getting better, and we have a solid political majority for keep investing in the bike lanes. And I should say that Malmo is really a flat city, so you can really bike year round here. So we have great conditions for increasing our biking even more. We're trying to help out the citizens by having rental bikes, which the city owns. So if you had a city bus card, for example, you can add 20 euros a year to get kind of a subscription to these, and then you could use it unlimited. And these stations or structures are scattered throughout the city. And the usage has actually gone up quite a bit on this, which is very positive. When it comes to commuting, 19% commute by car. So we have some work to do there, 43% in 2003. I should say that Malmo is still pretty nice to drive a car through, so to say. There's not a lot of congestion and so forth. So in one way, we're making it fairly easy on the people that use the car. So, but we've been trying to push commuter parking lots, and I guess we haven't been that successful in that yet, but we've only had it for about 1 or 2 years. But we're really trying to push that and make it part of the public transportation grid, so to say. Leasing bikes through the city. So this is actually an initiative of mine, because we're 26,000 employees at the city of Malmo. And, even if you live in one part of the city to the next, and you're going across the city, it could be a 30-35 minute bike ride. And, the weather here is sometimes pretty, I don't know, depressing, I was going to say, but it's not great. It's pretty windy. So if you have an electric bike, obviously you're more prone to use it. So the way we're going to try to set this up is that we're partner with a company that provide a full catalog of bikes that you can lease. And then you get a salary deduction pre-tax on this. You can choose from the full catalog, and then you pay 10, 20, 30, or 40 euros per month for this. You have an option to buy the bike out at any point, and you get full service, full insurance, and so forth. So this is, again, something we're trying to make it easy for the citizen to make sustainable choices. So we have a political majority for this secured, so this should go through in the next month or so. And I should also say, we looked at other municipalities, and some of them increased their employees' usage of bike by 30%. So for 26,000, and it's not a majority that bike, I don't think. So hopefully we can make a big dent there. Travel policy for the city, I just want to mention this quickly. We are making it mandatory to use public transportation, train or bus when you're traveling for work. There are some exceptions if you have far travels, but I think you need to save at least 3 hours if you're going to use a plane, but you also need a special permission for that. So that's also something we're gonna come into this spring here. Mobility hubs, what are those? That's just a fancy way of saying parking garage, I guess. Malmo owns the parking company, which is actually a good thing. I'm a liberal, so I'm not like embracing that fact, but here I have to say that it's a good thing, and we're pushing user-friendly mobility. And we're also trying to make the parking garages not as boring cement blobs. So trying to use the walls to make them green, to absorb noise. And we actually have birdhouses and insect hotels on the side, solar panels and so forth. So also happy that we have a contract with Green Mobility now. So if someone wants to use electric cars by the hour, so to say, they can do that. And now recently we're trying to implement an app that includes all these things, so you can pay just with one app when you're using all of the mobility choices. If we move into energy, then we have a waste to energy plant. You see a picture there, it says Sysav. It's a very efficient plant, I have to say. Sadly, they actually import plastic to burn. Yeah, that sounds horrible, doesn't it? But they provide 60% of the district heating in Malmo. So we heat water, and then that goes out in the grid. Again, they're very efficient, but you cannot, shy away from the fact that the emissions is 607,000 tons per year. So since I came in, I obviously, my predecessors also understood that this was a big issue, but what are we trying to do about it? And we're actually looking at the possibilities of carbon capture at the plant. And we calculated on this and did some investigation. And under the current conditions, this is not economically viable for us. But I want to make sure that we are in a position where, if financial opportunities arise, we are ready to push that button. So we're trying to work out that structure and say, this is technically possible. We just need if there is money coming, we are going to grab that. So that's the carbon capture. We have deep geothermal project, or I should say it's actually Aon. Aon is the energy giant in our region. And they are doing a project where they're going to go 6 or 7 kilometers down in the ground and create some cracks, put water down to it. I have an illustration here later, but this is a possible game changer for us. It could actually replace 50% of the heating in Malmo, and it would be all about like fossil free. So I will have an illustration here to try to explain what this looks like. Maybe you know this already, but so they go far into the ground, put water into these cracks, and then bring up heated water in other sections. So if you look above ground, this is actually just a small house. It's not a very big structure, but as you can imagine, like putting cracks in the earth is I guess it needs very, very thorough research and testing to happen. But we've seen successful tests of this in Finland and other places. So we have big hopes for this. When it comes to energy, solar panels, this is also actually an initiative of mine, because I've been involved in the local politics for a long time, and I've seen us. We've been good at a lot of things, but renewable energy, we're not very high on that. And if you look at Malmo from above, you see that there's a lot of industrial structures that are completely empty, and they could be used for solar panels. So if we partner with somebody, not sure who it should be, if it should be Aon or somebody else, but to allow us to go out to companies and say, you know what, we put up all the solar panels, we take that investment. All you need to do is commit to buying this green electricity. And here I put up some numbers. In our mind, this is something we should actually do, like hands down, because I know some of our civil servants say, okay, it's not getting paid back on 3 or 4 years, then we shouldn't do it. But I think we as a city need to be more long-term than that. So I hope we can get this through. Then to one of the main questions here, what works? And if you ask the civil servants, which I have done, to try to get the full view of the last decades or so, we have a long tradition of joining forces with external actors to really reach our climate goals, both local, national, and international. And there has been a willingness to really try new things in Malmo. So I'm happy about that. And we also work fairly well with governmental agencies. So, and I think that the last point here, to really develop those skills that can, wade through the administrative jungle, both on a national and at the EU level, is extremely important. And we have some good administrators with machetes to get through that stuff in a very efficient way. So all credit to them. The future, we're trying to develop the process called Climate Transition Malmo. It's, we have our environmental programs, and we have our annual budget tied to Agenda 2030. But actually, one of our biggest challenges is cooperation within the city between different departments. It's really kind of silo thinking a lot. So we're really trying to get past that. And this is the structure that we are now considering. And this is way more structured than it's ever been. So it's not been tested with time yet, but it's looking good, and we're making some progress, and we're trying to get really everyone to buy into this. So I have high hopes for this one. I could talk for a lot longer, but I will stop there. I'm not sure how much time I took, but if I went over, I apologize. Thank you so much.
Simon, thank you. Great to hear what you're doing. Some really exciting initiatives. I think lots of cities can learn from. And what I also love, I was lucky enough to spend some time in Malmo with my family in the summer a couple of years ago. The great quality of life that combines these green initiatives is a wonderful city. So thank you.